In some ways, it is better to think of working memory not as a place for storage, but a place to temporarily work with information as you try to connect it to previously learned knowledge already in long term memory, hence, working memory. Let's look at the basics of working memory. When sensory information comes into the brain through the senses, it is already being filtered before we even know it's there. This filter is called the central executive. It decides what information is important and what information is not important. It is already connecting information from your long-term memory on a subconscious level. It will filter out most of the information it receives and decides what is important to focus on. This is one reason why a student's background knowledge and experiences play an important role in what they focus on, and why many students will be in the same lesson but get completely different information from that lesson. The central executive can only allow a small amount of information into the working memory. This is an area where the information can be focused on, your attention. This space is very limited and can be easily overloaded. Only about 4 to 7 meaningful chunks of information can be held in your working memory for a duration of only a few seconds. It is hard to understand what 4 to 7 meaningful chunks is, so it's better to give some real-life examples. One example is when you are driving a car and something important happens on the road. You stop talking and listening, and you focus on the road. Your central executive has decided that the conversation and other sensory inputs around you are not important and redirects what is entering the working memory. Only things important to driving the car and staying safe are now being processed. Another example is when you are at a noisy restaurant and you have to calculate the tip, or you see a mistake on your bill. You stop interacting so you can focus on the problem at hand. Again, your central executive system is filtering what is important in that moment, and in that moment, the people around you are not important while the bill is. Another simple way to understand it is to put it numerically. Your working memory can only hold on to about 4 to 7 chunks of information at a time. For example, try to memorize this number and repeat it back. That was easy. It was 5 numbers. Now, try this one. Not so easy to do. That was 12 numbers, which surpassed the maximum of around 7 chunks our working memory can handle. But our working memory is not just a place where we hold information. Like I said, this is a place where we work on information. So let's go back to that easy 5-digit number, 64523. Now I want you to take these numbers and I want you to add 1 to each of the digits in the number and say that answer. Are you ready? Whether you are able to do this or not is not what's important here. What is important is this task was much harder. Why? Well, this is our working memory. Your brain not only needed to hold that new information, it needed to do something with it. This quickly fills up the space in your working memory. It was pulling information from your long-term memory, connecting to schema you already had about adding and number sense, and it was connecting and changing both the new information and old information at the same time. But an important thing to remember is this is all happening while the real world is going on around us. If the central executive determines that something else is more important, it will focus on that thing. This means it won't be focused on what you are supposed to be learning, and therefore limits the chance of successfully encoding the information in long-term memory. The main takeaway is working memory is a small and unstable place, and getting the right information in there, keeping it in there, and doing something with it is not always simple and not always as controllable as we or our students would like. Knowing this helps us to be more deliberate and thoughtful when teaching lessons or trying to learn something new. There are two other important pieces of the working memory that are important to mention. These will be important to the strategies we mention later. They are the phonological loop and the visuospatial sketchpad. The phonological loop is a mechanism in your working memory that allows you to process audio information. This includes the voice inside your head. So when you learn new information, one way to keep it in working memory is to constantly repeat it in your head. This is the phonological loop in action. The visuospatial sketchpad is where your working memory processes visual information. It also allows you to bring up pictures that connect to information. So, if you see an apple, you can picture an apple. But also, if you hear about an apple, you can still create a picture of an apple from memory if you have one already stored in long-term memory. The most important thing to know about these two areas is that they can work together simultaneously. So as teachers, we can leverage both these processes at the same time to increase the chance for learning.